Hello and welcome back to MTG Burgeoning, your channel for all things magic. Today, we've got mail. What's up, MTG BC, baby? You are the MTG Burgeoning community. Welcome to another mail day here with your boy Burge. So, we have some, shall we say, mail specificity? I think we'll roll with that phrase. Mail specificities, specific things that we wanted to kind of open together in its own video for the purposes of nostalgia. Now, we're going to get to that point very, very soon. So why don't we just open up the first little envelope here, and let's get right to what we're talking about. All right, here we go, baby. Come on. Ooh, it's fighting us today, folks. All right. Ooh, okay. Now, Hobby Caleria. I trust you. There is going to be an overall theme here. There are a few spare cards that are going to be like that old Sesame Street thing. One of these things is not like the other. The first few cards are probably going to be like that because they were, I could not pass up acquiring them so that they can go into specific decks that, let's say, we've already had on the channel and have been working on throughout for many, many moons, including the ones that are in the BCC. So here we got Hobby Caleria. This is one of the cards from Dominaria United that wasn't in any of the draft packs, was very, very hard to pull in any of the set packs, and you can get them in the collector's packs too, but there's just no chance of me going to get collector's packs just for the purposes of getting this card. This is an archer-specific creature, so this bad boy is going to go right into the changeling pool of our shapeshifter deck, replacing the Great Bow Diane as the archer tribe representative. All right, next up after Hobby Caleria, we have Ramses Assassin Lord. Same story with Hobby applies here to Ramses, except Ramses is going to replace the Scarblade Elite as the Assassin Tribe representative in the Changeling pool of our Shapeshifter with Changeling deck. So we're going to have a whole lot of upheaval in the Changeling pool coming soon. That's not just a spoiler, it is a promise. So behind Ramses, we've got Hajar, Loyal Bodyguard. Now, this is from the Brothers' War, and this definitely is one of the cards that you could pull in any of the packs, but I wanted to make sure I got this bad boy because he is going to be a fantastic fit in our Joda the Purifier Legendary Humans deck, another deck in the BCC. So I wanted to make sure I got him. He's not very expensive. He's not going to be very hard to get, but I didn't want to chance opening up random packs just to pull Hajar. Excuse me, because of what he can do. I mean, he gives all of our legendary creatures indestructible and a little, modest power boost by sacrificing him. And of course, in that Joda deck, with so many ways to get him out of the graveyard and back into our hand or on the battlefield, we can make sure that our legendary humans never have to worry about getting destroyed. So Hajar, just like the previous two cards, you're going to see him in an Up and Up series sometime in the near future. Going back to our Changeling pool, we have Tawnos the Toymaker. This is going to go in to replace the bird tribe representative, which right now is Soul Catcher's Airy. It is, it's an enchantment that gives all birds +1/+1 for each feather counter on it, and you get a feather counter on it whenever a creature with flying dies, or is it whenever a bird dies? I don't remember exactly which one it is, but at this point, it is a moot point because what Tawnos can do is so much better overall to the theme of the deck and what we're trying to do in the deck than what the Soul Catcher's Airy does. So Taunos is going into the Changeling Pool. It's going to replace the Soul Catcher's Airy. And next up, here is a new card from the Brothers War. Very similar to what we were talking about with Hajar, but the Archimandrite is not in the actual set. It's one of those quote-unquote commander cards that's, you know, not in the commander decks that you hope to pull in a set pack or most likely in a collector's pack. But again, like we talked about with Ohabi, I'm not going fishing around collector's pack to get the Archimandrite. So we got the Archimandrite here. This offers another tribe for our Changeling Pool, and we get to pick which one because it can represent the Advisor tribe, the Artificer tribe, or the Monk tribe. Neither of those three tribes right now in the Changeling Pool have a representative. So on the face of it, and I'm looking at this card right now and how we previewed this for the Brothers War EDH review for the BCC, I really want to lean towards Advisor for the Archimandrite because I think that there will be more Artificer and Monk synergies in the future, and maybe not so much for the Advisor. You let me know what you want in the comment section below, MTGBC. Which tribe do you want the Archimandrite to represent in the Changeling Pool? All right, behind that we have, now hear this. These are sweet right here. The Door to Nothingness. Then in the retro border, this is part of the quote-unquote artifact mystical archive of the Brothers War. And very, very affordable price here. I believe I got these for 49 cents each. 49 cents for a great card. Now, we run a lot of 5-color decks here at MTG Burgeoning. And a great late mana sink to put into the Door to Nothingness as a way in which to have target player lose the game. Yeah, we're going to roll with that times 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we're going to get 4 copies of this card because it's just so awesome. That retro frame is perfect. It really screams how artifacts should be. Love it. Love everything about it. 4 copies of that. And behind that we have... yes, the Gilded Lotus. That retro artifact border, if you grew up with it, if you opened packs with it, it brings you back to that time, man. It really does. Gilded Lotus is a great card. Fantastic in monocolor decks. And we're going to be seeing a gamut of monocolor EDH decks filtering out through the channel in the immediate future and populating the BCC. We've done everything with multicolored, 5-colored. Now it's time to start focusing on some monocolor, and you're going to see the Gilded Lotus in a lot of those decks. Times 1, times 2, times 3, times 4. And I do believe this 4th and last copy of the Gilded Lotus will bring us to the real theme of this mail day video, and it is more than meets the eye. Yes, folks, here we have 1 copy of each of the 15 Transformer cards that are in the Brothers War set and collector pack. So let's just put this down here for a second as we admire RC, who actually, RC is the Buy a Box promo for the Brothers War bundle. So that's pretty cool too. RC, that's Optimus Prime's chick. But anyway, so going back, man, as a young kid, mad young, can barely remember doing this, but dude, I would watch Transformers after getting home from school, and it was just awesome. I mean, just thinking, reflecting back on those days, getting home from school and just running up to the TV and getting it ready to watch Transformers. Man, I remember that. And I know that the universes beyond, and, you know, somewhat justifyingly so, are not very well received by the majority of the Magic community. And we've seen it so far that it's just lukewarm. I mean, D&D, all of the D&Ds were lukewarm. Warhammer, the Warhammer reception was lukewarm, even though there are tons of amazing cards in those sealed decks. And then we got more coming in 2023 with Lord of the Rings. But, you know, just to have the Transformer cards, and not all of them are here. They only picked 15, and it was a little somewhat surprising, some of their choices of the newer versions versus some of the classics, like, you know, Hound isn't in here, Mirage isn't in here. Can you imagine some of the things you could have done with those two Transformers as it comes to, like, illusions or, like, holograms and stuff like that? But here we got one each of the 15 Transformers. We're going to go over them real quick, my quick thoughts on them, and then we're just going to keep pushing it forward. So we already talked about RC. RC is great. RC is a great addition to a Feather commander deck, because what she does is very similar to what Feather does. And I'm not saying to replace Feather with RC, but RC is a great part of the 99 in Feather decks because, you know, we're targeting creatures with our instants and sorcery spells so that we can gain an advantage by getting them back. We're making copies of those spells, hopefully, if we have other cards in there like Zada, or maybe we're targeting Mirrorwing Dragon so we can target all of our dudes. RC is just going to make that better and better for us if we can get her onto the battlefield with Feather at the same time. And I know, Pablo, if you're watching this video, if you're going all the way through and we're at around a 10-minute mark, 10.5-minute mark, you got your Feather deck, you need to put RC in there, baby. I'm telling you, RC is going to be great. All right, next card up is Blaster. Now, Blaster is the Autobots version of Soundwave. Now, if you were into Transformers way back in the day, if you were a kid and you were watching Transformers, I don't think that there was any Transformer cooler than Soundwave. I mean, for God's sakes, he transformed into a cassette player, and he would eject other littler, smaller Transformers from his the sound player, the cassette player deck, I guess you would call that. Well, Blaster comes along and he becomes the Autobot version of Soundwave. I mean, he was different. I mean, Soundwave had that really cool Soundwave-like voice. Blaster was a little more hipper, like a hip-hop voice. Not exactly with how jazz used to sound, but he was just different. So Blaster is here, Combat DJ, and he's actually one of the 2 of the 15 Transformers, in addition to Soundwave, that on the other side just turns into a legendary artifact. See, there's the boombox right there, where Soundwave, as we'll see later, was just the cassette recorder, cassette player. So Blaster, along with Soundwave, they turn into cassette players or boomboxes, and the other 13, they just transform into their vehicle or into the actual robots. So we have a Blaster, and I think Blaster, I mean, let's be honest, we're in Gruul colors here. He has +1/+1 synergies. He's going to work very, very well in your modular decks. So if you've got maybe a Jund deck that is focused on +1/+1 counters, or maybe a Naya token deck with +1/+1 counters, Blaster's going to be a fantastic addition to a deck like that. And another goal of mine, as I might as well just say it right now, I don't know how feasible it's going to be, but I do hope to try to do a building around EDH video for each one of the 15 different Transformers. That would be pretty sweet. So we'll see how that works out. All right, so we got Blitzwing next. This is one of our mono-black Transformers. This is one of the Decepticons, of course. The first 2 that we showcased were Autobots. And here we're talking about your typical black and life loss. You know, he's going to transform into the Adaptive Assailant, Blitzwing here, into its legendary vehicle. And it's going to have, you know, choose flying or indestructible randomly at the beginning of our combat, and it gains that ability. And if it deals damage to a player, convert it. So, I mean, Blitzwing, not one of the most exciting of the Transformers here, particularly because when it flips into the Adaptive Assailant, it doesn't really have any of the evasion that we want it to have always. Yes, there is the randomization of flying or indestructible, but the randomization of that does not seem like it's strong enough to really build around. But we're going to give it a whirl and see. So that will be Blitzwing. That's one of the Decepticons. Next up, another Decepticon. Here we have Cyclonus. Now, Cyclonus is going to be sweet. If you watched the Brothers War BCC EDH review, we have some plans to add Cyclonus into our Sisay Enchantments Matter deck, because when we are able to flip it into the Cybertronian Fighter, and it does combat damage to an opponent, if we are able to do that, then we get an additional beginning phase after this phase. So, of course, the beginning phase, that's going to include your untap, your upkeep, and our draw steps. So in our Sisay Enchantments Matter deck, we're running with every single shrine in Magic's existence, in addition to a few of the gods that trigger during upkeeps and end steps. I mean, the end step triggers are not going to help with Cyclonus, but, you know, gods like Mogus and Clothis and I can't remember any other ones off the top of my head, but having an additional upkeep to let all of those shrines and gods trigger, I think Cyclonus is going to be a good addition to that Sisay deck. All right, the 1/3 mark. Next up, we have Flame War. We have a brash veteran here, and here we have another one of the Decepticons. I think this is a Decepticon. See, I'm not familiar with Flame War. Nope, Flame War has got to be an Autobot with the cycle there. Flame War must have come during the later iterations of the Transformer cartoon, because there was a time where, yeah, get this, even back decades ago, Hasbro was still trying to destroy and recreate their IPOs. And I remember when they did it with Transformers, and they had all of the classic Transformers going on for the seasons and the different episodes. And then the Transformers movie came out, which, if you watched that and you were a kid, it was just absolutely devastating. I'm not going to lay out any spoilers here, but Hasbro just decided to salt the earth, burn everything down, and just create new waves of Transformers. Flame War must have been one of those, because I don't seem to recall it being in the originals, but it is what it is. And if you think about that, if you were a G.I. Joe fan too, they did the same thing with G.I. Joe. You know, they got rid of Cobra Commander and supplanted him with Serpentor. And then when the movie came out, they decided to, okay, well, Cobra Commander is going to get offed. I mean, he didn't get offed off, but he wasn't going to do much after getting exposed to those spores, only later to have Cobra Commander come back and retake over everything, just like Optimus eventually does. And that's a little bit of a spoiler for the movie. All right, moving on. Number 6, we've got, it's not Bumblebee, it's Goldbug. So Bumblebee evolves into Goldbug. There was some kind of illness or sickness or disease that were inflicting several of the Transformers, and one of them was Bumblebee at the time. So what ended up happening is that Bumblebee was rebuilt based upon all of the damage that was done by this illness or the sickness or whatever it is that they called it. And one of the things he wanted to do was he wanted to kind of not grow up, but maybe be taken a little more seriously with his role. So he reestablished himself as Goldbug. And I'll tell you, this version of Goldbug here is going to be a fantastic addition to our Jodah the Purifier deck. It's going to synergize with humans. It's going to prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to attacking humans we control on this side. And then on the other side, our human spells can't be countered, so that's like a Cavern of Souls. And whenever this and at least one other human attack, we're going to draw a card and then convert Goldbug back to its original Humanity's Ally version. So you can see that that's going to be going into the Jodah deck very, very soon alongside Hajar over here on our right. Who remembers Jetfire? Oh, so awesome. When Jetfire came along, it was such a massive surprise in the series. Oh, he was just so cool. I will say it's a little surprising to see him in blue. I would have definitely thought he was in white, but, I mean, I don't make those calls, but he just, from my memories of him, he just seems more like a white creature than he does a blue creature. But with that being said, I do look forward to seeing how we can build around Jetfire here with respect to +1/+1 counters and artifacts and the colorless mana and non-artifact spells. And of course over here we can convert them and adapt to get more +1/+1 counters. Building around Jetfire is going to be a little bit of a challenge because if it's the commander, we're only going blue. And let's face it, blue is not really a super strong color for +1/+1 counters, but I look forward to that challenge. All right, next up we have Megatron Tyrant. Okay, this was the big baddie. And again, if you watched that Transformers movie, you know what ends up happening with Megatron. And of course, they had to show Starscream there creeping in the background. How many times he tried to double-cross Megatron, I will never remember that number, but boy, oh boy, did it seem like an awful lot. Now, the Mardu colors were a very interesting choice here. Now, I know he was always trying to conquer. He was always trying to attack. He was always trying to be the king, the ruler of everything. With all those with all those statements in mind, I would not pick Mardu as a 3-color combination for Megatron. I would have went Grixis, because everything that Megatron wants to do seems, similar to what Bolus wants to do. I don't know. That's just me, but Megatron in Mardu, I mean, let's face it, we're not going to really reinvent the wheel here. If we're going to build around Megatron, we're going to do so in a Mardu deck that's going to be based on attacking, combat, and just straight-up battlefield domination. And again, to contrast Megatron, we got Optimus Prime Hero. The Jeskai colors, that's interesting because I sense Jeskai being a lot more about like spells and slinging spells and illusions and things like that. Those are the colors that I thought Mirage and Hound would be great at, but not Optimus. I think of Optimus, and really I would want to go Teamer with Optimus because of what he does with his leadership and how all the Autobots always followed after him. They looked up to him. He could use those Teamer colors to provide like mass haste enablement or +1/+1 counters, protection. I don't know. Jeskai seems just a little off for Optimus. So even though we already have a Jeskai deck in the BCC with Hinata Dawncrowned, building around Optimus in Jeskai colors shouldn't be too tough to do. I mean, we are still dealing with one of Jeskai's strengths, and that is +1/+1 counters. So we're going to give that a whirl and see what happens. All right, next up, another mono color card. We got Prowl here. This is going to be pretty basic. I mean, this is just a mono white creature that specializes in +1/+1 counters. So as long as we end up, I'm sorry, not +1/+1 counters. This is the blink. Yeah, this is +1/+1 counter and blinking. So let's face it. I mean, we're right in White's wheelhouse here. The blinking was on the front side. The +1/+1 counters are on the back side. So building around Prowl is not going to be hard. It's right in the comfort zone of what White wants to do. He should be a very, very easy build. All right, here we have Ratchet FieldMatic. Another mono white here. This one we got the lifelink. Of course, Ratchet had to have lifelink as the resident medic for the Autobots. You know he had to have lifelink. That was just a matter of time. I thought that it would have been cool if he had some kind of protection, like some kind of protection from a specific set of colors, or maybe protection from other artifacts or something like that. I thought that would have been an interesting way to kind of ratchet up Ratchet, no pun intended. Again, here we got some artifact synergies, of course, because that's what Ratchet does. He brings the Autobots, he fixes them up, so he's going to quote-unquote kind of bring them back, which is similar to what Ratchet does here on this side. And then, of course, over here, more about artifacts in the graveyard. So, again, that synergizes with Ratchet from a flavor standpoint. He's bringing the Autobots back from the quote-unquote dead by repairing them. So he's going to bring artifacts from the graveyard back onto the battlefield, just like he would on the actual battlefield or when they're ever at their at the Autobots headquarters. So that's pretty good right there. I like that. All right, mono red. This time we got Slicer here, Hired Muscle. So here we have a mono red build, which is going to be pretty interesting because with the 15 different Transformers that we have to build around, we don't have a lot of mono colors available. We're going to end up with a total of 2 mono white, a mono blue, 2 mono black, and 1 mono red. No mono green, and then a bunch of multicolors. So it's interesting that they doubled up on the white and they doubled up on the black, but no semblance of green and only 1 red. So, I mean, double strike haste, that's right in Red's alley. I mean, building around Slicer is going to be fantastic because, let's face it, we are looking to put a Voltron build around Slicer, hit him up with some equipment, and then just go to town. All right, next after Slicer is the man we were talking about earlier, the absolute coolest one of them all. There he is, Soundwave. He would just press his button on his shoulder. He would open up his cassette player. He would say something like Ravage, eject, and then Ravage would come out, or Laserbeak, eject, Ravage, Laserbeak, Frenzy, and Rumble were the 4 main ones that he would use. He was just so awesome. And Esper's perfect fit for Soundwave, absolutely perfect. He's a spy. He has all of these conniving things that he does with his cassette Decepticons, with Laserbeak being a spy and Ravage, and then the Frenzy and Rumble. It's just so awesome. They absolutely nailed it with the Esper colors for Soundwave. And like we talked about earlier with Blaster, Soundwave turns into an artifact, so he's not double creature on each side. Very, very cool. And of course, when he's in his legendary artifact, when he's in the cassette form, and if we cast a spell with an odd value, we are going to put Ravage into play. And if it's an even spell, we are going to put Laserbeak into play. So awesome. Just these synergies behind that, the flavor of Soundwave. Wizards absolutely crushed it with creating Soundwave. All right, second to last here, we have Starscream Power Hungry. Yeah, that's just about right, because I'm not sure there was an episode that went by where he wasn't trying to overthrow Megatron, and it was always just a failure. I don't know why he kept him around. I would have probably took his head off. So we have Starscream as mono black, and yeah, that sounds about right. You know, mono black. I would really want to do... when I start to think about building around Starscream, I think we're going to definitely play along the Monarch ability that he promotes, because I think with a lot of the card draw that's going to happen, if we're fortunate enough to have the new version of Shieldred on our side of the battlefield too, I think that would be a great synergy with Starscream Power Hungry. All right, and the 15th and last, saved the biggest boy for the end. It is Ultra Magnus Tactician. Absolutely knocked it out of the park with the Naya color pairing. That was absolutely perfect for what he wants to do. He has the protection. He's going to make sure that he can get creatures onto the battlefield. Biggins. That's what Naya always wants to do. And if you think about some of the creatures that are in Naya colors, we are not talking about some small creatures that Ultra Magnus is going to get onto the battlefield. We are talking about some monsters. We're talking about Zakama. We're talking about Ural. We're talking about Jasath. I mean, the ability, I don't know how many other dinosaurs are going to be in there for Jasath to be as good as he could be, but we're talking about Godsire, Maglonoth. Oh, it's going to be so much fun building around Ultra Magnus. All right, so there are the 15 Transformer cards in the Brothers' War. But we still have one more thing left to open. What is that? Well, we talked about what Soundwave does and how Soundwave has the ability to create a token of Ravage and a token of Laserbeak. So let's pull out those tokens. Oh, there he is, Laserbeak in the foil. Because, of course, because it's Wizards, the tokens are only coming in the collector's packs. They're not coming in the draft packs because you can't get any of the Transformers in the draft packs. They're not coming in the set packs because, well, they're not in the set packs. The set packs, you can get one Transformer on average per 10 set packs. The tokens are only going to be in the collector's packs. So this is most likely going to end up being a situation very similar to the Coma's Coil tokens for Coma. So I thought, you know what? It's going to be a really good idea to get these bad boys as soon as possible, because once this kind of fades and fizzles out, these bad boys are going to be hard to come by. And if you look at the prices right now, at the time of this video, I looked a little earlier, Laserbeak is about $10, and Ravage is not far behind that. So that is a little outrageous. I paid nowhere even close to that, folks. We're talking a couple of bucks per token here, because we got them early and we got them quick. And there they are. Man, they look awesome. Oh, so cool. So awesome. Laserbeak and Ravage. All right, there they are. Oh, so awesome. Man, I'm looking forward to doing that. So that's it, folks. Those are the Transformer cards, and I am going to try to see if we can get a building around video for each of the 15 and see where we can go from there. So yeah, look in the future. We got some up and up videos on the way because, like I said, these guys are not just going to sit here collecting dust. We ordered them up for a purpose, and that purpose will be realized. All right, folks, if you're a Transformers fan, I do hope that watching this video was a joy, because it certainly was for me. Great nostalgia. I'm so happy to have been able to share this with everyone. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. This is MTG Burgeoning, your channel for all things magic.